All right, you are just in time for the Leadership Forum, and I have my youthful panel with me. I'm not going to introduce them one more time because as they walk to the podium, I will give you a comprehensive profile of who they are. But the question today is, are the youth pulling their weight on the leadership front? Are the youth pulling their weight on the leadership front? And I want to, being Charlie here on Twitter says, no, what we are witnessing is youthful cheerleadership. All right, so this is how it's going to work. Each and every panelist of mine will take the podium, as usual. The first 6 minutes, talk to the youth about any subject they want to talk about, whether it's mentorship, whether it's social, there's a breakdown of the social fabric, whether it's political. 6 minutes, I'll time them. When the time is up, I'll ring the bell. First up is Kaweru Dennis. I'm going to bring up his profile for you in just a bit. Now, Kaweru Dennis also on Twitter is called It's Lagiaka. You can follow him or tag him on any comment you have. His profile is on air right now. Dennis Kaweru graduated from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology with a Bachelor's of Commerce in Business Admin. That's in 2010. He pursued further studies, a CPA from Vision Institute of Professional Studies. That's a serious mathematician. He also became the youngest corporate banker at Standard Chartered Bank. He is currently part of Mentor Me Africa, that spearheads mentorship programs for both high school and campus leavers. And it's a safe environment for young individuals to discover their passion with the right amount of guidance, after which they are connected with people already in the field they're interested in. Kaweru, the floor is yours.
So thank you so
6
much.
minutes, we start now.
Thank you so much for having me. As I said, I actually want to speak on something I'm very, very passionate about, which is entrepreneurship. Yeah. So the youth we have as a country right now, we have one of the most vibrant economies. Yeah. We have a very youthful country as is. Over 57% of our population right now is youth. But the challenge we have is we keep expecting government to create employment for us. Yeah, tunaomba serikali tusaidie, government is not creating jobs. What are you doing yourself as a youth? So I want to speak about following your passion. Move away from expecting government to create work for you. Create it yourself. Yeah, follow your passion. Grow your economy. Yeah, so immediately we move away from that employer-employee mentality. We have an education system that is actually preparing you to be an employee as opposed to being an employer. Yeah, I did the corporate world for 4 years. Then I realized the corporate ladder is way steeper than I anticipated. Yeah, so 2 years ago, I exited. I started what started as a side hustle, then now became butter and bread. Yeah, so in 2 years, it's been able to grow. It's been able to grow from basically one entity to a group of companies that now is basically called the Lagiaka Group of Companies. But that means I've been actually able to make a living from my own passion. I want to encourage the youth to do the same, create employment. Yeah, if you every time someone will ask you, if I gave you 1 million shillings, what will you do with it? The first answer I usually get is, nipatie utaona. You get, yeah? Have a business plan. Yeah, no one is gonna come at your door and give you that 1 million shillings. How are you gonna figure it out? How are you gonna find it? Two things. Yeah, if you have the two biggest resources you need. One is the time. Secondly is the talent. If you have the time and the talent and use them wisely, the man will always follow you. So have a business plan, plan your time, then go and execute. Number 3 is avoid these get-rich schemes. Yeah, we have pyramid schemes. We saw the Quill Biashara right now. There's something trending. Malls 254. They seem to be the next now Quill business for the rich. Avoid anything that actually just gives you an income immediately, because then again, it's not sustainable. Go for businesses that you can actually scale yourself. Invest in your passion. Yeah, that will be one of my key take homes. Yeah, then again also make sure you're very well reversed with whatever you're passionate about. Make internet your bay. Google is bay. Yeah, there's so much information. Yeah, there's so much information. Get researching, get to know A to Z about what you actually want to pursue. Then again, I also want to encourage you to move away from the conventional grinds, the conventional hustles. Yeah, not all of us will be doctors. Not all of us will be teachers. Not all of us will be engineers. Yeah, we are very good artists getting paid. We have DJs getting paid. We have actors. We have, the only way we can able to grow our economy is actually not government. Look at the developed economies. Half of them, actually 75 to almost 78% of developed economies are driven by SMEs. So it means it's small scale businesses that are actually driving the economy. So it's actually upon us to create employment. Get out there, start your business, find someone who has capital, most importantly, get mentorship. Yeah, as Mentor Me Africa, we provide that, and there's always that one person who's willing to talk to you. So why not go ahead and discuss that with them? Yeah? One other thing, integrity as youth. Yeah, we have this misconception that actually 50%, over 50% of youth in Kenya believe corruption is okay if you don't get caught. Yeah, so that's a challenge we have. We are trying to hold our leaders accountable, yet we are the ones who put them there. Yeah, we're being bribed. Yeah, our votes are being bought. Instead of actually voting for someone who has integrity on the ballot paper, we are looking for who feeds us the most. We're actually going for leaders who basically tell us what you want to hear. Move away from the conventional lies. Yeah, let's keep our leaders accountable. Let's be able to actually take advantage of the opportunities government has offered. Look for instance, access to government procurement opportunities. AGPO, we keep saying, like on the youth summit, these kept coming up. Yeah, the fact that payment is being delayed. Yeah, so because the president actually promised anyone who now payment that take actually above 30 days, then you'll have a case to answer. Then we should be able to actually have these leaders move away and create opportunities for leaders who are actually able to do it, to process these payments for our youth. Yeah, but then again, how are you supposed to get that payment if you don't have a company, you do not have a certificate, you have not registered anything? All you have is a dream and waiting for someone to come and give you 1 million shillings. No one is going to do that. You have to actually start small. Yeah, every time you keep thinking, okay, I have this dream, nikipata mita ndafanya hivi, that is the wrong thinking we have. Yeah, get your dream and get working. Thank you so much.
Timing for a mathematician. It's exactly 5 minutes. All right. Kaweru Dennis there. His Twitter handle, it's Lagiaka. It's a very hard name to pronounce, but it's Lagiaka. All right. Speaking about so many things, what are the youth doing about themselves, the employer-employee mentality? We'll be talking to him more about that in just a bit. But as he takes his seat, I want to call upon, we're going to mix up the panel. One gentleman, one lady, so that you don't say I'm biased. We're going to call upon Ruth Ambogo to take to this podium. I want to bring you up her profile just a bit so that you know exactly who she is. Her Twitter handle is at Ruth Ambogo. And Ruth Ambogo is an incoming president of the Law Student Society of Kenya, that's LSSK. She's the founder of World Young Women Council as well, YWYWC, and the country director, Mentor Me Africa. She's currently pursuing law as a third-year law student at Strathmore University, where she served as a student leader in 2014 up to 2015. She bears a strong passion for nurturing and mentoring youth and women leaders, and as a result, has offered talks and facilitated trainings on leadership and mentorship in over 30 institutions. She has been featured on several media platforms, including here on NTV, where she is right now as we speak, and she's about to address the youth as well. The floor is all yours, Ruth.
Thank you, Trevor. I'll begin by quoting a famous quote that I once had when I went to a forum, that if you're not at the table discussing the issue, then you're on the menu. And I think for us representing the youth here today clearly states that we have decided not to be on the menu, but to be at the table discussing that which is important to us. And today I'll be speaking about, briefly touch on youth participation in political leadership and the value of the same, as well as the women involvement in political leadership as well. And I'll begin by a topic that created, a lot of discussion around, in our media houses, and that this was very recently, about a few months ago, when we were talking about the 2/3 gender rule. And the 2/3 gender rule was basically supposed to find ways of how we can get more women into the political, the political space, more women participating in political leadership. So basically, we all know that our constitution provides that there shouldn't be more than 2/3 of one particular gender occupying elective and nominative seats in government. And so this is a law that's very essential to our country. Why? This law was meant to address the gender disparity that has been there for a very long time in the political space. And the gender disparity basically has been leaning against the women, basically working against the women. This is very clear from the facts and statistics that we see from the 2013 election. It's very sad to realize and notice that women are only represented at a percentage of 19% in parliament. And in the last elections, we only had 16 women MPs being elected to parliament. We had, of course, the required 47 women representatives, which many people have discredited their functionality in parliament and basically their role in political leadership. We had we didn't have any woman senator being elected to Senate, so we had to have 16 nominated senators, which then again I recently found out that they are nominated senators, but they basically have no voice in what they don't have a voice in terms of legislation at the Senate level, and then we have the nominative seats to represent special interest groups. Well, this number is very low. Why? Because we find that women form 53% of voters within the country, which means that they need to be, I mean, that if you look at the number of voters and the population being at 53% as compared to the number of now women in elective positions, in leadership position, the number is quite, we find that the number does not reflect of this population of women. And it's important that we have women represented at political leadership spaces. Why? One, because women have particular interests and matters that can only be addressed by women themselves. Some time back, we had a bill that was coming to Parliament to legislate, sanitary towels, and yet we didn't have women showing up, coming up and showing the support. The men were actually questioned by FIDA, and the men were like, we don't even understand these, sexual reproductive issues. So we need women to be represented in Parliament to be able to front these particular issues that affect women and children, and persons with disabilities, because women tend to associate more, they tend to associate well with these particular groups. So for me, this is a topic that I'm very interested in as a young person and as a young woman. And so when we ask, are youth really being involved in the political leadership space of this country, that becomes a critical question to me as a young person, and especially as a young woman. So I think for me, it's critical that these coming elections, we get as many young women standing up to be elected. We get as many youth turning up in large numbers to elect these women, not because they are women, but because they also can take up leadership positions. So, for my profile, it was clearly stated that I have once served as a student leader at Strathmore University. I will tell you for sure that why we say that the space is not level for women is because there are so many challenges that come with women getting into the leadership sphere. First of all, the expectations of society as to the morals that women should hold up are really high. When a woman leader is caught making a mistake, or when a woman leader is caught on the wrong side of the law, a lot of noise is made about it. This is totally different from how a male leader would be treated. And then secondly, when it comes to political leadership, we find that statistics showed, or rather have proven in the past, that women have faced a lot of violence during elections. We have a lot of them winning. I've had a lot of women leaders who are currently elected giving stories of how they won elective seats and they still had, at the point where they were supposed to be given the certificates were taken away. They don't have the physical, they don't have violence in them naturally, so they can't fight for their seats. They can't fight for these certificates. So the space for women the ground for women is totally not leveled up. So I'm hoping as a young woman that during this the 2017 upcoming elections, that things would be different. That would have an environment that's more receptive to women taking up leadership positions. And on the matter of youth, we also need to have a lot of young people taking up these positions of leadership, because in as much as we say that the youth are the future of this country, they can only become an active future if we are put in positions that actually bring about change. It's one thing to empower us economically, and another thing to empower us with leadership positions that will give us an opportunity to actually make a difference. So I hope that we will be supportive of each other. There has always been the question of whether when a young person stands up to run for an elective seat, there's always been a question of whether fellow young people will rally around them and support them. And I hope that we will have young people supporting us.
Ruth.
Unfortunately, I cannot keep time like entrepreneurs. I'm a politician myself. Thank you.
It's good to declare that. We'll go delve into more of the discussion in just a bit. That was Ruth Ambogo speaking to you directly. Twitter handle is at Ruth Ambogo, and she is an incoming president, Law Student Society of Kenya. I want to call upon Stephen Machua to take on the podium. He's a social entrepreneur and youth advocate. tweet. His Twitter handle is at Stephen Machua. He's an award-winning social entrepreneur and youth advocate, like I mentioned, with wide experience in volunteerism, digital media, and youth policy interventions as well. He holds a postgraduate certificate in global social sustainable entrepreneurship from Colorado State University and a Bachelor of Commerce from Technical University right here in Kenya. He's a UN volunteer and a member of CSO and Youth Declaration Drafting Team. That's the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD. He was there as a facilitator for the Youth Forum and United Nations Environment Assembly, also as a volunteer. Stephen.
Okay. Thank you so much. I would like to have an honest conversation with Kenyan youth, pretty much because we've found ourselves in rhetoric meetings and weird situations where things are discussed about us, but then little or no strategic action takes place to actualize these aspirations. We're at a point where every year we release between 800,000 and 1 million young people into the labor market. And out of these, we only get 50,000 getting into decent employment. And that provides a major risk. Just as one of the leaders said earlier this week, the biggest risk that Kenya is facing right now is an energetic and intellectually talented population, yet it doesn't have anything to do. And that has to do with three key areas, and these are education, state accountability, and the issue of more and better jobs. I'll start with state accountability. We are seeing our government borrowing on our behalf, but we are not benefiting from these huge loans as much as they are long-term loans. We are seeing a situation whereby we are bearing the burden of something that that is not benefiting us in the both in the short run and in the long run. And the government has a role to fulfill the promise it makes as far as these external borrowing are concerned. And looking at it from a very practical point of view, we can look at something like UNCTAD and TICAD, processes that were very deliberate on including young people in the formulation. But then when it came to the way forward on how things are supposed to be actualized, we don't see young people. We don't see young people in budget making processes. We don't see young people in formulation of the implementation frameworks. And this has to do with the trust that leaders have bestowed upon young people. Are we looking at young people as just people who are ready to contribute their intellect in policy formulation, but then they're not? But we don't include them in the implementation framework. I mean, we need an honest conversation in that. On the issue of education, I just want to highlight on a number of stuffs. We are at a situation where we have a very vibrant population, youth population that is dynamic when it comes to the thoughts that come into their minds and the strategic steps that they take to actualize those steps. But then how well are we harnessing these innovations? How are we having an intergenerational dialogue just to make sure that our elders are able to understand why we are doing this and why it's necessary? I will give a very practical example. Yesterday I was visiting some farmers in central Kenya, and it's quite sad when you see the average farmer's age at 51, and yet we say we have an education system that promotes innovation in all sectors. We need to question that, and we need to do real conversations and real strategic engagements when it comes to the kind of education that we are giving to our young people. And that cross-cuts around parameters of quality, affordability, accessibility, and relevance. I mean, if we If 80% of our GDP comes from agriculture, why are we not investing in agricultural innovations? Why are we not giving young people the space to participate in the value chain? And not only value chain, but value chain that brings sustainable livelihood, value chain that brings things that would enable young people to grow beyond the tokenism that has always been happening. Then, still on the same point of education, we need to look at policies that leverage on partnerships. There has been a huge disconnect between what social actors are doing, what economic actors are doing, and what political actors are doing. And this has to do with the space or the kind of information that these three key components or these key stakeholders have. We've seen everyone trying to pull their end. When you look at the civil society, they're trying to push their agenda. When you look at the political leaders, they're pushing their agenda. When you look at the economic and our business community, they're pushing their agenda. And we end up being the, we end up being the, you know, let me say, a game is being played, but let me say we're the ball. We're just the center of interest. Everyone kicks us to the end that they feel they are going to benefit from. And let me say, I mean, this is common knowledge that young people have been used as a business in this country. Young people, I'll repeat again, have been used as a business in this country. If you want to do anything that will make you richer, just use the word youth. And we've seen it. We've seen people representing young people in trade delegations. And this one, I'll just try to highlight the same to our leadership, and especially our president. He needs to include young people in the delegation. People have the ability to negotiate on behalf of their country. They are running key businesses in this country. Yeah. Just before, I know Trevor wants to get me out of the podium, but then let me just highlight the very last thing that young people are involved in, and some of the ways in which we need to harness their potential. For the longest time, we've seen young people being involved in social causes. They are community volunteers. They've represented their countries. They've put a good word for the country. And they have the ability to contextualize evidence-based policy formulation processes based on the things they do on the ground. And we need to see those grassroots youth, those people who know what pains a young person, being involved in decision-making processes. And we are at a point where Kenya is soon set to launch a national volunteerism policy. And this policy needs to create a framework which will ensure the engagement of these young people in direct policy interventions, and not only policy interventions, but then the whole process of budget making and implementation, and something that will give them meaningful engagement.
Okay.
And one last point.
No.
No, one last point.
You will make that last point when you come back on the
Thank you.
discussion.
Thank you.
Stephen Machua, the social entrepreneur and youth advocate, his Twitter handle is at Stephen Machua. He says the youth are being used like the ball in the game, and it's about time they took over. We will be discussing that in just a bit, but for now I want to call on Nerima Wako. Her Twitter handle is at Nerima Wako. I want to give you a profile just coming up on your screen just a bit. She was born and raised right here in Nairobi. At 17, she received an academic scholarship and attained a bachelor's degree in journalism and sociology from Jacksonville State University. In 2012, she attained a master's degree in public administration. She's a co-founder and executive director of Siasa Place, a platform to engage youth in electoral processes, governmental organs, the constitution, and politics as well. Nerima?
Thank you, Trevor. So, looking at our media, we can say that there's been a lot of negative information in terms of youth. We can talk about the report that Kaweru just said about youth accepting a bribe, or we can talk about drugs or youth being involved in chaos downtown with university students. I believe Musinde Miluro is just closed. So there's a lot of negativity. But my question today is, what vision do we have? What vision do we have as young people? I love history, so we'll take a walk back through history. When I think of Africa, you think of Patrice Lumumba. He was only 34 when he was Prime Minister of Congo. We can talk about Sierra Leone, Valentine Sesera. He was 25 when he was President of Sierra Leone for 4 years. Can talk about Gaddafi. Gaddafi of Libya was 27. We can talk about Nelson Mandela in South Africa. When he entered politics, he was 26. So let's bring it a little bit closer to home. Let's talk about Kenya. Look at our political leaders today. James Orengo, he was a very, very involved student leader. Even we can look at Tom Mboya when he entered politics. He was only 27. So can youth lead? Absolutely. Yeah. Youth shows, it shows through history, youth have always led. But I want to ask our generation now, what happened? Where are we going? So let's talk about what we think is important. A lot of times when I talk to young people, it's about, I want to be able to make it in life, I want material things, I want to have wealth. Those are great things to aspire to have. Trust me, they are wonderful. And this is why Siasa Place was created. Because when you have a fabulous business with your millions that you're making without a state, that means nothing. You cannot have all these things if you are a refugee just because you will not be involved in the political processes in your country. So we have no option but to be involved. So even though things may look hopeless and frail at the moment, I want to remind youth that hope cannot be killed. It's impossible to kill hope. So what would make us hopeful today? Because 60 years ago, I'm sure youth were asking, are we going to be able to gain independence? They asked that question. And look where we are. We've gained independence. We are Kenya. So what is the vision for the youth of today? What do we want to see? And I'm not going to leave here without talking about our constitution. As much as it is boring, and a book that you try to read just some sections on it, youth should know Article 55. It's catered to youth. But the constitution is useless if it's just a book in paper. We have to act on it, we have to implement it, and we have to hold our leaders accountable to it. And the only way you can do that is if you know it. Article 43 is social rights. Every young person should have access to water, standardized healthcare. We've been looking at Kenyatta National Hospital. That should be accessible to all of us. We should be able to be treated, no matter where you're from. We should be concerned about that. Young people, are we talking about those things? Are we trying to have those conversations in our community? As much as we talk about employment, which is an issue, not just in Kenya, but around the world, what can young people bring to the table? Because we look at these innovations and businesses, and we see young people leading. Kenyans lead in so many things. It makes me proud to be a Kenyan. So the ideas are there. The creativity is there. But we have to unify. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Are there challenges? Yes, plenty of challenges. In fact, I'm going to say a lot of youth, we do not support each other. I agree with Stephen Machua, where we must unify. The only way to make a difference, the only way to make change is for us to unify. And once we unify and understand what our vision for this country is, then we have a voice. And once we have that voice, we will not be pushed around as a ball, as Stephen has said. In fact, we will be the referee. We can decide that this game will stop. And that's the stand that we need to have as young people. So, like history has shown us, it's possible. Can we do more? Absolutely. Am I hopeless about it? No. I believe that there is hope. So, my question to Kenya is, Kenyan youth, what do we want?
All right. Impeccable timing. I didn't even have to ring the bell. Thank you very much. And in the next 30 minutes, we're going to discuss this issue revolving around the youth. And she's brought up very many issues, negative reports in the media. I'll take her to task on that because really we are part of the media, but it's not a forum to cleanse the media. It's really just going to talk about the leadership forum and the youth and how much they're participating. And that question, again, I want to bring it up on air. Are the youth pulling their weight on the leadership front? Are the youth pulling their weight on the leadership front? And I want to start with Kaweru, and we'll start from where Nerima just ended, and she asked the question, can the youth lead? And the answer was a resounding yes. But how does that happen when research has shown that the driving factor for youth mostly is material? Nobody talks about content. A youth stands up there, they're supposed to tell me what they will do that is different from what this particular MP is doing. All we can see right through them is the same rhetoric the MP was bringing up, because we all know what they really want is to make money.
So the challenge, like you said, is the problem with it's all rhetoric. Yeah, look at social media, for instance. What are you posting? Yeah, what are you doing about the content you're actually putting out there? Yeah, I look at that question from, let me just spin it a bit. Yeah, are you a leader yourself? Yeah. So before you say, oh, my MP does not perform, my MCA does not perform, my governor does not perform, what have you done for the country? Yeah? Instead of actually, you have to be a leader in your own, well, circle. Yeah? Look at your circle of friends. Who do you surround yourself with? Do they add value to you? Yeah? If the only plot you guys have ni Kuchangam by Jamison, then you actually expect yeah, your MCA to actually lead. Yeah? And the only thing you're leading people to is Dunda. Yeah? What are you doing yourself? Yeah? Start by being a leader. Start by being a leader. I've seen instances where people have found employment on social media. I've had guys who have found funding for an entire business plan on social media. Guys even find spouses. Are you leading yourself towards that? Amaniti, Mafisi, you get. Yeah, these are some of the pertinent issues we actually have to raise and realize that before we castigate our leaders, we have to be leaders ourselves. Yeah? What have you done to be able to actually create in terms of your own space? I would rather you tell me you are a WhatsApp admin for a company, yeah, before you tell me how your leader is not performing, because he wasn't voted there by monkeys. Yeah, it's us who are casting these votes. Yeah, so if you are a leader yourself, you actually be able to see that quality in the leader we want. Yeah, it starts with you. Be a leader. Look for a leader who vote in someone who has these qualities we are looking for. Because if you're a leader, you can identify with them. You can see someone who is development oriented. You can see someone who can actually be accountable. You can see someone who can actually drive the country forward. Because rather than just fake rhetoric and saying, oh, this 2017 election, you're going to make it about youth, it's the same nonsense all over and over again. But what are we doing ourselves? Okay. So be a leader first.
Ruth?
Yeah. On that topic, and I think the question was, what do we really want as young people? Yeah. I think there's a report that was done once, and this report stated that 70% of Kenyan youth believe that they can actually make a difference. That's a huge number. And I think that's where the whole question of hope comes in. You see, for us young people, all we need is the hope that we can actually do it. And we do have that hope. But then for us to get the kind of leadership that we want and to even be a part of it, there are certain things that have to be non-negotiable. First of all, as young people, we need to insist on a value-based leadership. We need to be the drivers of an issue-based politics this coming electioneering period. You know, we cannot expect others to do it for us. You know, so if we want to have a leadership that will work for the youth and a leadership that will be inclusive of the youth themselves, we as youth have to sit down and say, as the youth of this country, we are uniting under one agenda. You can't have a section of Kenyan youth believing that this coming elections, we will only vote for those who give us money. You can't have a section of youth that are supposed to be leaders, but all they do is mobilize the youth for evil. You know, we now have this whole notion of youth leaders, but then the reality is that these people who call themselves youth leaders are the ones who are selling us to, you know, to the people we will end up voting for as national leaders. There was a case of a group of young people who, or rather I've heard a story of a group of young people in Nairobi, and they're organizing themselves under young youthful leaders, the people we call youth leaders, and all they do is walk to politicians and tell them, look, I have this number of 5,000 youth in Kibera, and they're willing to transfer their votes from Kibera to Westlands. So if you give us money, we will, you know, I will give you that voting block. Yeah. So we need to have a youth that says we are insisting on values, and these are the values we will be standing for during this coming election.
And speaking of values, and also there's this attitude of nonchalance, if you may. And you mentioned that there's something wrong when the youth have to fight for what is rightfully theirs.
Exactly, yes.
Is that expected to come on a silver platter? Shouldn't they step up?
Yes.
Are the youth supposed to step up and fight for those things anyway?
Definitely.
The youth need to step up and fight for those things. You see, when at the start I said that it's very important for one to create themselves. I mean, for one to give themselves some value, so that when you come to the bargaining table, you actually have value. You see, if the youth stand and say, by the way, we are the youth and we are voting as an entire block, and this is what we are saying. We are saying that we will vote in leaders who have zero tolerance for corruption. We are saying that as a youth, we are going to vote for leaders who have zero tolerance for ethnicity and leaders who have integrity. Trust me, the people who will present themselves for leadership positions will have to comply by what we will have put forth as a youth. But then again, we need to create spaces for ourselves. We need to fight for positions in particularly, especially when it comes to politics. We need to fight for positions in political parties. That's one way that we can create a space for ourselves, and not just fight for positions, but once we get these positions, begin to create value at our political parties. Begin to insist on these values that we'll have united under as youth. Insist that, look, as a political party, we are not going to participate in violence. You know, as a voting bloc, we are not going to be bribed.
Let me bring in Stephen on this. And first, I want to read some feedback from Daniel Marcy. He says the youth in this country have themselves to blame. They have been sucked to tribalism and corruption.
Okay. Wow. That's a big one. But let me highlight one thing. You only speak if you have something to say. And we are seeing a generation that has not yet worked on itself. And this cross-cuts the issue of information and building your capacity around some of the processes that are happening in the country. If you're planning to vie in 2017, by now you should be aware of the Political Parties Act. You should have read what it entails. You need to know the requirements that that are critical for you to be in that position. And the same goes to our constitution, where the issue of corruption and tribalism well featured in a regulatory framework. So,
but being in the constitution and being and on the ground, those are two very different things.
Yes, yes.
And you've been dealing with the youth. Is this an issue as we speak? Tribalism?
That's why I'm saying you only speak if you have something to say. You only act if you know you have something to provide to the country. The issue of corruption and tribalism is something that has come to that has been like ingrained in the society, and it's something that we've grown with in the context of the society that we live in.
So how do we get out of it?
Now, getting out of it is not even the first thing. The first thing is avoiding to get into it as a young person.
You just said we've grown up with it.
We've grown. I mean, we are in a society where it's been happening.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that young people are corrupt. The thing is, they need to be quite aware of why they're getting into this leadership position. And the fact that they need to look at the beneficiaries. They need to look at the welfare of the country. They need to look at this country 50 years from now. Okay,
hold that thought. Before I bring in Nerima, we have a caller online. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead with your comment or question.
I would want to ask the young leaders a question.
Go ahead.
When you say that the youth should come together and support each other, maybe in an electoral position, how is that different from the cause you always hear that I'm a Luo, so my Luo people should come together and support me in this position. I'm a Luya, I'm a Kikuyu, so I should get my Kikuyu support. How is that different?
All right.
I think the thinking is fundamentally the same.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Jacob. I'll start with Nerima, then I'll come to you to handle that question. Nerima?
That's an interesting question. Thank you for that. Basically, a lot of times when we're speaking on that matter, I think we've all experienced it, where you'll have a young person who's very, very qualified, more qualified than the older person, you know, vying for the same seat. But you will have young people not supporting the young person, even though they come and with the character, like the character ability to be able to carry forward with that position. And so that's the mentality that we're speaking on, not in terms of vote for me because I'm young. Exactly. No, that's not what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
Kaweru.
Actually, what I think is, don't vote for me because I'm young. Vote for me because I'm competent. Don't give me that tender because I'm young. Yeah, give it to me because I've actually proven I can deliver. Yeah, so let's move away from don't vote for me because I'm ambient. Don't vote for me because I'm Luo, but vote for me because I'm Luo and competent. You see, right now we have an entire generation of youth who actually don't care about tribes. All these actually squarely blame it on media. Because social and mainstream, we have an entire cocoon where we're actually being lied to that we are tribal. We're actually not. Half the time in our conversations, you're gonna hang out with people. 1 month later, you realize, oh, this guy is from Mijikenda. Probably when you're doing a road trip, you get. Yeah, that's when someone's telling you, by the way, you know what? He's my grandma's place. So we actually have managed to move away from the tribal sort of politicking. only the 3 months to an election is when we are reminded, oh, you're Kikuyu, you're Luya. You get, so if we actually can maintain the momentum and the positivity we have right now, it's not all bad, You guys stop lying to us. It's not all bad. It's not.
Is that true, really?
Yeah.
Because we deal with the people on the ground, and a lot of this comes up all the time.
I mean, but look at like campus politics. Honestly, be honest. Like even with the University of Nairobi or Moi University to be specific, you know, it's tribal. I mean, we're seeing that, and even with the student population, they vote in blocks. I mean, I've had discussions with students.
But they actually get influenced. Here's the thing.
They do.
Ignoring it doesn't mean it's not there.
Yeah, we are not ignoring. What we are saying is, let's actually keep that momentum up, because there's change. You
So what we
someone,
need to
they'll
do
tell
is
you, I'm
create a
trying
revolution
Kenya.
against
Exactly,
it.
So let's keep driving the conversation, because we keep highlighting it as a problem. What are we doing as a solution? I'm more of a firefighter as opposed to now just saying there's a fire, then what?
And then my take on that is that I think we shouldn't now do away with the unity of the youth, because my belief has always been that any kind of positive unity is good unity. I mean, if we can have young people saying, now let's unite, I don't think that's something we should fight against. And I also don't find a problem with us identifying ourselves with our communities if we are doing so in the right way. If the Luya people come and say, well, we as a Luya nation feel that we need the following things set right during the next election, then I don't think that's a bad thing. It becomes bad when we say, now we as a Luya people, this is who we are secluding ourselves, we believe that the opportunities should be ours, you know, as opposed to other communities also having a part in it. We cannot wish away our tribes. At the end of the day, they are our identity. At the end of the day, it's what gives us, I mean, it's our cultures are what give us an identity and a way of survival, so we can't wish it away. What we should focus on doing is on creating positive unity around our tribes. So when we are saying we are uniting as a Luya community or as a Kikuyu nation, we should be uniting for the right reasons. We should even be uniting and saying, since we as the Kikuyus or we as the Merus have the following resources, how can we help the Samburu as a community or the Turkana as a community that is suffering a lot from hunger through our, you know, county governments to actually work together, partner together and help each other, you know? Or how can we make our identities work for us, you know? How can we make them unify us? So we can't wish away tribes, we can't wish away our, you know, our ethnic groupings. We can only find ways of working and making sure that they work for us positively. So
before I come to Steve, we have another call online. Good morning, Bruce.
Morning, Trevor. How are you?
Very good. Go ahead, the comment or question, Bruce.
I'm calling from Homa Bay, and I wanted to put in some comments.
Yes.
Now, I have focused a lot on youth leadership. I'm a youth. I'm 28 now.
Okay.
And I'm a political aspirant. At this time, I'm going to contest.
Okay.
But one thing I've registered a disappointment with our youth in the middle class.
Okay.
I've registered again a disappointment with the youths who are socially upright in terms of the education as well. And they have a good social ability. These people, when you look at them, even when they're in the university, they have a very big vigor, they have an energy, they have a spirit. When they say comrade power, it is power, and can even bring a heaven's wall down. But now when they're out of the university, when they're out of college, the spirit is dead. They cannot even participate in bringing a united society of young people.
All right.
There are people who just now are dead completely. And when we look at the political life today, most of the youths that are left for this are people that never even stepped classroom. They're people that have gone into drugs. And that is why they've made politics, they've been used to make politics look violent.
Okay.
They've been made to make politics unapproachable for a young person and even any young woman who want to get into politics. So I'm urging the youths of the middle class, the youth that is sociable, to get out, to add their voices so that we can put this country ahead. For example, she's called Wako, the Mariba.
Nerima,
yes. She will be participating at a social level, but now if it comes to groundwork, she really fears getting engaged into political wars.
Okay.
Because of the political situation that we let our young people be exposed to.
All right. Thanks.
Finally, I want to urge each and every young youth that is here today that we cannot make it alone unless we interact, unless we really, really interact deeply with the current political systems and understand their weakness and the way we can beat them.
Okay.
There's a quote that goes that if you cannot beat them, join them. So we join them to beat them from inside.
All right.
Today, the politics has become so expensive that it is all about the tumbo politics. Somebody tells you, oh, my friend, I can't listen to you unless you first do something for my stomach.
All right.
It's a big challenge, and we must come out as youth at every level
Okay.
to fight these challenges and put leadership to the youth.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. That's Bruce from Homa Bay. And since he mentioned you directly, Nerima, I'll give you the chance to respond to that. Yeah.
I'm so
Before
glad
bringing
that
Stephen.
he called. I'm so glad that he called because he brought up very, very valuable points. It's true. In terms of the middle class, because even with our conversations, you'll find like grassroots or the community, they are very involved with who their MCA is or what's going on in the community, and then you come to people in the middle class, and they're not concerned. In fact, if I have a job and I have food to eat and I'm comfortable, why should I be concerned? In fact, they're not even talking about voting. It's about when's the election day. So I make sure I'm not.
They vote on Twitter. They think
Well, I'm not
what
here.
they tell me is it doesn't make a difference. So I'm not even going to vote.
They're not going to go vote. Yeah. So it's true. That's definitely an issue.
Okay. Stephen, Murabu Odari here says that the only issue we need to look into is what I term as generational impunity.
Wow. that's quite.
That's from Murabu Odari, because then it means that what we learn from the leaders is passed down to the leaders who are incoming. And I'll ask Ruth to delve into this because you are into politics as well. Okay. But is that a reason enough to carry out all these things?
Let me first
because it's been passed down to us, so we just run with it?
Let me first intervene. We, as young people, we need to ask ourselves what brings us together. Is it our problems, or is it our age group, or do we have that interest that can the glue that can keep us together? And the moment we will identify that glue is the moment that we will be able to forge or come up with a way forward for this country. And we need to look at politics from an issue-based perspective. If today young people decided to make a very drastic declaration and say that they are going to fight unemployment, they will. Yeah. They would. I mean, this rhetoric of us being statistics, every now and then we mentioned about 70%, about 800,000 getting out of employment or something. We need to look at it. We need to look at our mobilization from an issue-based perspective. And as I said earlier on, the elders have learned the tactic. We don't have issues to address, and that's why we are brought with that. That's why the division happens quite easily. Yeah. And going forward as a solution, we have a very positive generation right now. And I can say this because even for such panel to be given an space or airtime on a national TV, it never used to happen before. So that kind of positive generation and that kind of goodwill is something that we need to harness as young people, and it's something that we need to build our issues around. Okay. Yeah. If Nerima is good in mobilizing young people around the political scene, well and good, go ahead. If I'm good in mobilizing entrepreneurs, come on. If Ruth is good in mobilizing students, let's come together and identify our issues. Of course, we know our issues, the likes of unemployment, the likes of better education or something. And the moment we will agree to come into that one space or that one group and say that the youth of Kenya are united, that's the day that you will find us occupying the parliament. That's the day you will find us occupying even the presidency. Okay. And I'm saying this because I'm looking at myself as a president for this country. Yeah.
All the best with that. Before I bring in Ruth on this, there's a call online. Dan, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Trevor?
Very good, sir. Go ahead with your comment or question.
Yeah, I wanted to just agree with Machua.
Yes.
He has given us a clear cut on how the youths are coming up and what they should be doing. But my worry is the youth are not giving us clear issues when they want to come to platform. Okay. You see, Nerima stated and Machua stated that the youth are being used as a ball within the political realms.
Yes.
And this is true because the youth have no clear stand on what they want to achieve when they come to platform.
Okay.
Most of us come in we support leaders, political leaders, and when we are given position, we use them to have our own gain and forget about the youth which we're fighting for to get into the platform. I would agree with Machua when he say he want to become the next president. That's good and wish him well. But want him to come up. Is he going to fight for the youth or is he going to fight for himself? See, we've seen even now the current leadership, those who coming up, and they were given platform as youth to support the youth. Now they forgot about the youth, and now they are fighting to gain themselves and their family. I want to just ask the youth clearly: can we have an idea? Can youth come together and support the fellow youths on clear platform? What we want to do? We have our fellow youth suffering outside. What change do we want to make for all the youth to come into platform? Thank you, Trevor.
All right, thanks, Dan. And now, Stephen, since that was addressed to you directly, I'll let you respond very briefly before I bring in Kaweru and Ruth.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dan, for the question. I agree with you that most political leaders have taken advantage of our lack of information.
His concern was more about, you say you want to be president, what do you want to do? Stay on the point, Stephen. Stay on the point.
I'm not feeling you at any point.
The question is more, why do you want to be president?
For me and any other young person who is stepping out there, they are stepping in to fill in a gap that has always been vacant.
What is that gap?
And this gap is people who have the interest of a generation at heart. Most of the things that are happening right now are short-term. People are looking at what they can gain within a certain within their tenure of leadership. We need to look at people who are thinking beyond today. People who are thinking of generations. People who are thinking of who is going to feed Kenyans in the next 50 years. And these systems and structures have to be created. The moment you tell young people to be entrepreneurs and you're not creating an economic base, or you're not creating the necessary economic framework, I mean, I find a disconnect. And this can be seen very well with the current debt that is within the country. And when you look at the way that money has been spent, the way corruption has taken center stage in some of these loans that are set to create a conducive environment for young people, the way they are misappropriated, it pains me as a young person, and it shows the kind of thinking that is there. So if the current leaders are to be out of the office in the next 10 years or 20 years, what are we leaving for our country?
Let me bring in Kaweru on this. Kaweru, do we have a clear-cut issues that we want to address as the youth? Yeah. And at this point, I'd like to mention that we did invite one of the youngest parliamentarians, Gitobu Kinoti. He went to parliament only at 26 as an independent. So the question here is really, do the youth have an agenda that can be tabled in front of everyone and given specifics and staying away from what the politicians have always been saying?
Thank you. We actually do have an agenda. Here's the thing. We actually have a government that has supported entrepreneurship. We had the GS Summit being held here. We had TICAD. We had the Nairobi Innovation Week. Why? Because these are agendas and these are actually issues being driven by youth. You know? But the challenge we have as youth right now is we are also not, we are putting ourselves in a position where we're not being taken seriously. Yeah? If we have to have an agenda, first package yourself as a serious person. Yeah? You want to come to me with a business pitch and your pants are on your waist, on your knees. You get, yeah? Yes, it's agenda-based.
Swag.
Class. Yeah? Yeah? Here's the thing. We want microwave solutions. We want to actually start a business today and be profitable in a week. It's not going to happen. Yeah? We have this thing where we actually assume failure is permanent. Yeah? Don't give up. Pick yourself up. You have an agenda. If it's the first time, try again. Yeah? But then again, don't do the same thing and expect a different result. Yeah? Instant. Definition of madness. Yeah. We have youth that are, we have seen things like pedophilia. Yeah? But then we also have youth who are supporting it. Yeah? Or he didn't, you get. Yeah? I don't even want to delve in that. Yeah? We have youth who are saying what? 90% of the youth right now actually believe we can have good leadership. But how many of those 90% have voters cards? How many have registered? So let's not have agendas, then we sit on, on our laurels. So you have an agenda, but then do something about it. You have a passion, follow it up. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Failure, pick yourself up again and try again. Yeah?
Okay, hold that thought. We have Felix online. Felix, good morning.
Good morning, Trevor.
Yes, go ahead with the comment or question, Felix.
Okay, my contribution is,
Yes.
as youth, we've really focused on what the government should do for us and what the ministry should be doing for us, how much money has been set aside for us. But we're not looking at how we can help ourselves.
Okay.
What knowledge should we tap? What experience? What kind of skills do we need?
Okay.
So in doing so, you see, they say, if there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm. So I think first we need to look at what is it that we can do for ourselves. And even for Machua, as he said he has political ambition.
Yes.
What would he want to do differently? Because I've noticed in Kenya, for you to be popular, you have to say something bad about somebody. You have to abuse people. The political bar is a bit too low for us. Okay. And if we are seeking integrity, I think I feel Kenya is not ready for us to be leaders. Because just take, for example, how many youth are there in the parliament right now? And what have they done for the youth?
Okay.
You understand? Yeah. You have to get a big boot to lick. And in the process, by the time you finish licking that boot, so that you get your financial ground stable, you're already over 35 years. There's nothing much you can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Felix. And I'd like Ruth to address that, the issue of mudslinging. I know you were involved in politics a lot. And like Felix just said it, you can't make a name here in Kenya unless you do something controversial.
Yeah.
That's why there's that statement that sex sells and things like that. We even see it on social media. Yeah. So how do we change this attitude of painting someone in bad light so that you grow?
Okay, I think the first thing that what stands out from what Felix has just said is the fact that we are focusing on what we want to be given, but we are not focusing on what can we do to,
once we have those resources,
and then
what
also
are we doing with them?
Beyond that, there's what can we do with the resources, but then again, how should we equip ourselves? Because see, at the end of the day, young people will claim that we want opportunities, but once we are given these opportunities, are we qualified? You find a lot of young MCAs who cannot express themselves. How are we building ourselves? That's a question that he brought up that we should address here. That, as we are claiming that we are youth and we want to be given opportunities, when given these opportunities, will we be qualified enough? Can we fight when put in that space of fighting? We have a problem where we have young people who say we want to get positions of leadership, but then once we are given that MCA position, we cannot even simply read the constitution. We cannot simply sit down and say, draft whatever agenda we want. And I think that's a question that will still come up again, and you will bring panelists and you will still ask that question. Simple agendas like young people saying, look, we want to be educated. We want school fees to be reduced. Many of us are not attending institutions of higher learning because we come from humble backgrounds. Myself here, I'm actually, like you mentioned, I'm a student at Strathmore, but I'm lucky enough to have gotten a scholarship. How about the millions of young people who will miss out on education because they don't have school fees? This is an agenda that young leaders should take up. Agendas such as we want security improved. We cannot keep having young people being killed left, right, and center on the streets of Nairobi. We've had media reporting on, extrajudicial killings happening, and the victims are young people. Can we have young leaders standing up and saying, we want security addressed in this nation? Can we have young people stand up and say, we want our roads made because we know that we are business people, we are entrepreneurs. I'm a border guy. If the road is not made, I'll have challenges. The smoother the road for me, the better the business for me. As I'm a Ambogo out there, I'm thinking the easier the transport system in the country, the better for me, or the easier for me to I would make more money because I can be able to transport my goods. Can we have young people saying young people need entrepreneurial opportunities? These are the agendas we are expecting them to stand up for. So if we have young people who keep coming and because we are supporting a certain political party, and the political party says for you to make it, you need to abuse people, then that's where the problem begins, But then it's a narrative that we can change. It's a narrative that we can change. We saw a revolution of young people in Tunisia standing up and literally overthrowing a government through social media. I believe that as youth, we are not angry enough. I totally believe we have not gotten to the point where we are saying enough is actually enough. If we can still go to social media and make fun about issues that are affecting us. You hear money disappearing, money that is meant for youth disappearing, and the best that we can do is create Facebook photos and memes about it for an entire 2 months, instead of literally taking to the streets or sitting down our leaders and tasking them to be a voice for us, and sitting down these youth and telling them, the moment you step up to that podium, please speak on our behalf. But you see, if this young person is not even empowered to be able to have good debating skills, these are the people who will stand and before they even begin speaking, they have been heckled by other parliamentarians. They've been told how, you know, you're too young, you don't even know what you're saying. First of all, we have to be equipped. And these agendas are very simple agendas. We just need to have youth listening to what the people actually need. You can't have a leader who purports, who has already assumed that this is what the people want, if they cannot approach the people and ask them, what do they want? If I was to be asked today, I would say, I want cheaper education. I want more employment opportunities. I want that when a TCAD is happening in Kenya, and I've been told that the government of Japan is giving us this amount of money, I need 6 months from now to understand how has this money gone in helping, how has it been used in helping youth, because youth was mentioned in it.
The flip side of that is when you want all these things, how do you propose they be done? For example, I've seen people on social media lobby and get funds for some particular family in need, and cancer is actually treated just by making noise on social media. But before you answer that question, let me take a caller. Alex, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead with the comment or question, Alex.
Yeah, I was saying that the problem we have is that most of our leaders, they tend to have, there's a corrupt system that happens. That's the elephant in the room. And what happens is that they don't want the youth to get into the system, because there seems to be like it's like a protective. If you're not corrupt, you're not allowed into the system. So every time a youth tries to campaign, they are sort of put down and told they are not experienced enough, because they don't want anybody coming in there trying to make a difference. There's a system that tends to be they try to keep a certain system intact. And when anybody who tries to bring change is already, you know, they don't give them a chance to grow and become leaders. They want to put them back and not want them to expand, you know. They don't want to get them into the leadership. So it becomes, corruption is really the main issue here.
Thanks,
People
Alex.
want for the system, keep the system going the way it is. They don't want the difference, to make that change.
All right. Thanks, Alex. We are running out of time here, so I'll give you final closing remarks really fast, starting from Nerima.
Okay, basically, I want to bring up two things. We've talked about corruption a lot, and I believe that the issue with corruption is that our systems, people, even as simple traffic offense, someone will bribe just so they don't have to go to court. So what we need to focus on is what can we do to make our systems streamlined, easier, because in example, Rwanda, it's easier to pay for your ticket immediately you receive it. So people have no issues with going and wasting their time with that. And then another thing, we've mentioned all these conferences coming, the TCADs, whatever, which is fantastic. But to me, my issue was that there was a parallel youth to the TCAD, or the parallel youth. So as soon as you see yourself as parallel, you're not really being taken that seriously. You should be part of that conference, which young people should have been more aggressive to be. Anyway, and then finally, what I want to talk about, I think Alex just talked about the issue of the
system of cartels.
Yeah, the old guards. Yeah, the old guards. And it's the systems. It's our systems, because we cannot be talking about corruption and just having a list and things end on that list. So when a list is shown, and then
Stephen, closing remarks really fast. We're running out of time.
Okay. So one thing I would urge young people and young people who are representing different stakeholders, they need to look at, they need to have that courage to face the issues that are affecting them. And we need to stop the aspect of self-censoring as young people. We need to keep it raw and real, and while at it, we need to take the actions that are needed to make things happen.
All right.
Second thing I want to say is we have a generation that is quite aware of what they want, but then the path is not yet clear. And for the path to be clear, we need to keep pushing. We need to take strategic steps to get there and to get into the main space. And the last thing is a kind request to our president. when he goes out for trade delegations, he needs to include young people because they are the ones who are going to be running businesses in the next.
Okay, that would be you in the
years.
near future. Let's talk to Ruth. Ruth, final remarks really fast.
Mine is simple,
Yes.
that youth can make a difference. But how do we do so? First, we do so by discovering what we are good at. We need to each find out what our purpose is, what we can contribute towards society. Once we identify our purpose, build up on ourselves, get educated, actually go to school and get that degree. And it doesn't just end there. Expose yourself to as much education as possible. Social media is here with us. Use it positively to get as much information as you can. Connect with other youth, not just in Kenya, but in other countries as well.
Because when you connect, is like Kaweru said,
exactly.
You're running out of time. Really.
Google is there.
Yeah.
So connect with other youth in other countries. Plug into the opportunities that are available right now. Political parties are a good place to start for youth interested in leadership. Start your own organizations. Like I said, you mentioned that I'm the founder of World Young Women Council. Start organizations like that. At World Young Women Council, you've seen that I'm clearly passionate about women in leadership. As a young person at my age, at 22, we are already organizing as to how we can help these women aspirants gain the necessary knowledge they need so that they can be able to actually get a competitive edge in the coming 2017 elections. So we are never too young to make a difference. We just need to find that which we are good at, nurture it, and plug into the spaces available for us, and we can make a difference.
Okay, Kaweru, final remarks, really fast, 5 seconds.
5 seconds.
Yes.
Let's stop talking about youth. Let's talk about an empowered youth. It's the only way we're going to change. She mentioned education. Read the Constitution. Get an education. Get those papers. Yeah. These leaders, task them to give you the manifesto, not money. Manifesto, not money. Access to information. Yeah. Google again. Bay. Involvement. Fight for your own inclusion. No one is going to come and give you that to you. Don't sit back. We have one of the biggest economies in East Africa, yet you have the 3 times the rate of unemployment. Why? So focus on entrepreneurship. Don't wait for government to help you. Read through the smoke screen from the politicians. Yeah. Then once again, don't compromise on the quality of leaders we are putting into parliament.